Alright, so today we're going to be doing just a quick rundown, an introduction, more or less, of one of the biggest card games out there, Magic the Gathering. And so what you have here is your welcome deck, uh, also called open house deck. They're also found in intro packs that were available through big box stores. But these you can actually go to your local game store if they are actually part of the WPN program, and you can pick one up. And as you can see on the box, each one is assigned one of the particular colors. The colors of the Magic cards are white, black, red, green, and blue. So this little intro deck has one 30-card deck of green cards, and then it has a secondary deck of blue. So the main point of Magic the Gathering is that you are a highly powerful mage, also known as a planeswalker. You start with 20 life, as does your opponent. This is often kept track of with a 20-sided die or with some other form of life counter. And the goal is to summon creatures and to cast highly powerful spells in an attempt to subdue your enemy. So, you start off with a deck. Now these are just 30-card intro decks. So your main deck is primarily going to have 60 cards. This is for most formats: Modern, Standard, Legacy, Vintage. There are other formats such as Commander. Those have totally different rules. And we're not going to go too much into the formats currently, as this is just kind of an introductory primer. And so once you've shuffled, your lives start at 20. Each player is going to draw an opening hand of 7 cards. Now, for sake of the introduction, we are going to reveal each hand. Usually you will keep your hand to yourself. That will not be common knowledge, but we're going to reveal them so you can all see what's in a player's hand and how it plays out. So that gives us 7 there. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and 7. Now we have 2 hands here. For instance, we're going to say, now there are a few ways that you can determine who goes first. You can cut the deck in the middle and see which card has the highest cost. So this is a 3 and 2 green. We'll hold this up to the camera so you can see 3 and 2 green. That is an Arborback Stomper. And then this is just an island. And so the blue player is going to technically have a cost of 0. The green player will have a cost of 5. So the green player has the highest cost. And so they'll get to pick. As the green player, I'm going to choose to go first. And so I'm going to look at all of my cards. And before I make any decisions, we're going to go over some rough things. You have creature cards, very similar to the Root Wallet here. You have land cards, which are your resources in this game. And so each turn, you may play 1 land onto the battlefield. Now these lands can then be exhausted or tapped to generate a resource known as mana. Now if you have any creatures that in the top right corner it says that it only costs 1 mana, then you would be able to put them out. Currently, I do not have any creatures that are low enough on cost to be able to play. And so, as such, I do not need to exhaust my mana. So I play my land onto the field. As I am the one who started this game, I do not get to draw my first turn. First player does not get to draw unless it is a multiplayer game. So as the second player over here, we have this little blue setup. Their first turn, they will draw. They will play an island for their turn. And currently, all of these creatures are too high on the mana cost to be played with just 1 land. So they will then end their turn. Subsequently, we will move forward, and we have drawn another land. So for this turn, we can play a land. We now have 2 lands in the battlefield in total. This creature, the Druid of the Cowl, costs 1 colorless and 1 green. So sometimes you'll have on the left side here, there will be a number inside of a grayed out circle. That means colorless mana must be played of that amount. And colorless mana can be generated by just about any land. So the way I refer to it is 1 green and 1 of any color. So 1 green and 1 of any color, we exhaust these resources, and that allows us to summon the Druid of the Cowl onto the field. Now our Druid is here. Because this creature just entered the battlefield, there's not much that we can do with it. Creatures that enter the battlefield have what's known as summoning sickness. And as such, this creature, while it may be here, it cannot attack. It can defend, but it cannot attack, nor can it tap for anything that is currently on it. So, we would then end that turn, pass back over to the blue player, who will then play their second land. And we're going to pull this back a little bit so that way we can actually have a little bit more landscape to use. And now on the blue player's side of things, we have what's known as the Coral Merfolk. It has the 1 colorless symbol and 1 blue. And so what that means is, as we referred to previously, 1 blue and 1 of any color. And that allows us to summon a Merfolk. Yet again, since it is this creature's first time out on the battlefield, it will not be able to attack. We will then end that turn as both of our resources are exhausted, and there was not much that could be done. So, now things are about to get a little interesting. Now it is the green player's turn once more. However, at the beginning of their turn, there are phases to a turn. There are steps to a turn. You have upkeep, where if any card has any rules text in this little text box that refers to upkeep, you will take care of that at the very start of your turn. You will then go from upkeep to your untap step, where any resources that are exhausted will untap. They are now ready to be used again. You will then move to your draw phase, where you will then draw your card for the turn. Then you will enter into what is known as Main Phase 1, or the pre-combat main phase. So in Main Phase 1, that is when you can play lands, that is when you can summon creatures, that is when you can cast sorceries. And so we played our land for this turn. Now we have this little Root Walla that costs 2 of any color and 1 green. So 1, 2 of any color, and 1 green. That will allow us to summon him. Now, because he has just entered the field, he has summoning sickness. There's not much he can do. But our Druid of the Cowl can attack. Now, the way attacking works is that these creatures you have summoned, you declare attackers. Now, this is part of the combat step. Once you leave your main phase 1, you will then enter combat phase. So, we declare all creatures that are attacking at first. So, as the green player, I have to make all my declarations for attack beforehand. I have to tell my opponent how many of my creatures are attacking. I tap them to initiate and show that I am attacking. Now, the blue player has priority at this point to choose if they want to block and to assign any creatures they would like to defend them. The blue player has a Coral Merfolk. If the Coral Merfolk were to block, this is where we get into power and toughness. Now at the bottom right, we have another set of numbers. In the top right, we have the mana cost. In the bottom right, we have the power and toughness. You have 2 numbers down here. There's a 2 and a 1. 2 is the power. 1 is the toughness. And so what that tells you is that this creature, when it attacks, when it is in combat, it will inflict 2 points of damage. It can sustain only 1. So this druid is swinging 1 point of damage. That would be enough to destroy this merfolk. However, this merfolk, if I chose to have it blocked for me, would not be powerful enough to destroy this druid, as this druid can withstand 3 points. And the Coral Merfolk can only cause 2. So wasting my creature at this early point might not be a good idea. As such, the blue player will announce that they are not declaring any blockers, and they will just take the 1 point of damage from the druid. The green player now has all of their resources tapped out. They have no other plays to make, and so that will then end their turn. The blue player will now go through the same phases of the turn that the green player has gone through. We will look for any upkeep triggers. There is none in the current text on the battlefield. We will then look for anything that is tapped down or exhausted. We will untap it, and it is replenished. We will now draw our card for the turn. We will now step into the first main phase, where we will play our land for the turn. Now we currently have 3 land on the battlefield that we can use for resources. We had a little bit of an issue before where we didn't have anything strong enough to block or to defend for us. As such, we're going to tap 1 colorless and 2 blue. So that is 2 blue and 1 of any color. And we're going to do that so we can bring out this Ancient Crab. Now this Ancient Crab doesn't look like much. He's only got a 1 on the power, but his toughness is 5. So he can withstand up to 5 points of damage. We're going to put him out there, because he'd be a good blocker for what's currently on the field. Now, that exhausts all of our mana, and there's a Root Walla sitting here. So, since the Druid and the green player made a calculated risk to swing at us, we're going to, in turn, do a similar calculated risk of swinging the Coral Merfolk. Now, this is where we look at the amount of text that is on a card. There is rules text in this little text box on these cards. I'm going to hold it up so you can actually see the Root Walla a little bit more clearly. So the Root Walla states that you can spend 1 of any color and 1 green to give it +2/+2, increasing its power and its toughness by 2 points until the end of the turn. You can only activate this ability once a turn. And so if we had 2 green available, we could use them. However, we don't have any mana available. Now at this point, as the green player, I can choose to withstand and take the 2 points of damage from the Coral Merfolk, or I could choose to sacrifice my Root Walla. Now, the Root Walla and the Coral Merfolk both inflict 2 points of damage. The Merfolk can only withstand 1. The Root Walla can only withstand 2. So they would both do enough damage to destroy one another. And so the blue player, my apologies, the blue player has announced that they are attacking. The green player declares a blocker. As such, they both initiate and inflict damage at the same time. They both inflict 2 points to one another. The Root Walla does enough to destroy the Merfolk, and the Merfolk does enough to destroy the Root Walla. That is going to destroy both of these creatures, sending them to the discard pile. However, in Magic, it is referred to as the graveyard. Now, as the blue player, all of our resources are tapped. Our Ancient Crab has just entered this turn, so it has Summoning Sickness. It can't do anything aside from blocking. So we're going to end the blue player's turn. Move back onto the green. Now the green goes into upkeep, followed by the untap step, and then draws. Now, there are certain particular cards known as sorceries and instants. These are magical spells that can inflict special abilities or cause certain reactions on the board. Now, sorceries can only be cast during your main phases, during your turn. Instants can be cast anytime that you would have priority or anytime that you would have the opportunity to respond. As such, instants can be cast during your turn or during your opponent's. Now we currently don't have any instance, but here's what we're going to do. We're going to start off by spending 1, 2, 3 colorless. So we're going to generate the 3 colorless. Now, the special abilities of the Druid of the Cowl allows us to tap it, and it creates 1 green mana. So we're going to tap the Druid of the Cowl just like we would a land to generate that 1 green mana. We're going to use that to cast a Giant Spider. This Giant Spider requires 3 colorless, or 3 of any color, and 1 green. Our Giant Spider enters the battlefield. Now the Giant Spider has what is known as a keyword on it as one of its abilities. It is known as Reach. Most often, anytime that a card enters the field that has a particular keyword, in parentheses out to the side, there will be an explanation to that keyword. So for instance, the Giant Spider has a Reach. And the description for Reach means that this creature can block other creatures that may have flying. So, currently we have expended all of our resources. We have a creature with Summoning Sickness on the field, and we will now pass our turn back to the blue player. The blue player then goes into Upkeep, followed by Untap, and then into the draw step. The blue player will play their land for turn, and that gives them 4 available. Now, we will expend 3, 2 colorless, 1 blue, to summon a Stealer of Secrets. Now, the reason we would summon the Stealer of Secrets is because what it says is whenever Stealer of Secrets deals combat damage to a player, you get to draw a card. As such, we will hold off. We will not make any further moves, and we will allow the green player to go. Green player will then go through Upkeep, then Untap, and then draw. Main phase 1, we will play our land. And we will spend 2 colorless and 1 green to summon a Rootwalla. Now at this point of the game, we are both sides efficiently building up defenses. We are preparing for the final strikes, so to say. We've poked at one another, prodded, tried to find weaknesses, and we're slowly starting to kind of get a feel for one another and how their play style is. As such, green is then going to pass. Blue will then begin their turn, Upkeep, Untap, and draw. Now, blue is going to spend all 4 of their mana. They're going to tap down 3 colorless and 1 blue to play Tricks of the Trade. And they're going to put it on Stealer of Secrets. Now, Tricks of the Trade is a special card because it is an enchantment. Now, enchantments are cards that either can enchant the battlefield itself, it can enchant a player, it can enchant a planeswalker, or a creature. So you have to read the card and see exactly what target it's requiring. And so this card says that when you enchant this creature gets a +2 on its power, and it cannot be blocked. So that currently turns the Stealer of Secrets into a 4 power, 2 toughness creature. I will declare an attack with the Stealer of Secrets. It is currently unblockable. As such, the green player will have to either find some way to circumvent and destroy the Stealer without blocking, which at this point we have no way to do that, and the green player will take 4 points of damage. Since the green player is taking the 4 points of damage, the Stealer of Secrets ability will kick in. It says that whenever it deals combat damage to a player, I get to draw a card. So there we go. Seeing as all of our resources are tapped out and our one blocker is available, we don't want to attack with all creatures whenever they have an equally strong side. We want to keep some sort of defense there, so that way if they do try to attack, we'll be able to at least block and hold off some of it. So blue is then going to pass that turn to green. Green will then go through the upkeep, then the untap step, then the draw phase. We will then play our land for the turn, and we currently have 5 lands on the field, along with a druid that can tap for a green mana if we need to. As such, we're going to tap 1, 2, 3, and 4 of any color, 1 green, and we will tap our druid to generate another green, giving us a total of 6 mana. That will be enough for us to summon a Cowl Prowler. Now it has no special abilities, however it is a 6/6 creature. It's relatively large. Now we are doing this to prepare for next turn, to utilize the cards that we have in our hand. We will then pass the turn. We will end our turn and pass it to the blue player, who will then go through upkeep and then the untap step, and they will then draw their card for the turn. Blue player will then play land for the turn. They currently have 5 lands available, an unblockable Stealer of Secrets, and so at this point, with the blue decks, they're a lot more based on strategy and circumventing your opponent. So the more cards you have, the better chance you have. So we're going to spend 1, 2, 3 colorless, and 1 blue to cast an instant known as Inspiration. Target player draws 2 cards. I will target myself and draw 2. We now have a sorcery and another creature. This will resolve and go to the graveyard. And we will swing again with our Stealer of Secrets, who is unblockable, inflicting an additional 4 to the green player. When this happens, the green player has no mana untapped, no way to circumvent and stop the Stealer, and so we draw. Now, here's where things are going to get interesting. There are currently 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 cards in the blue player's hand. That is the maximum. If you, at any time, should end your turn and you have more than 7 cards in your hand, you will have to discard cards, meaning pull cards out of your hand and put them into your discard pile or graveyard until you are back down to 7. Now you do not have to go through the discard phase until the very end of your turn, and that is only if you have more than 7 cards in hand. This can be an issue for blue players if they have a lot of draw power. So the green player is then going to begin their turn. Upkeep and untap. There are no upkeep triggers. They will untap and then they will draw. Now, things are about to get interesting. We're going to tap 1 colorless and 1 green to play Rabid Bite. Rabid Bite is a sorcery and it states target creature you control deals damage equal to its power to target creature that you do not control. Now this does not tap your creature down, this merely deals damage. So, the biggest creature we have is a 6/6 Cowl Prowler. The Ancient Crab is a problem because it can withstand 5 points of damage. The Cowl Prowler is going to inflict 6 points of damage to the Ancient Crab through this sorcery. As such, the Ancient Crab is going to be destroyed. Rabid Bite is now over, and it goes to the graveyard. The blue player has only one creature available, and it is currently tapped down because it swung at us last turn. The green player sees an opportunity and begins building. We tap 2 to activate the Root Walla's effect, giving it a +2/+2 until the end of turn. It is now a 4/4. The Root Wallace swings for 4. The Druid of the Cowl swings for 1. The Giant Spider swings for 2. And the Prowler swings for 6. This is for a total of 13 damage. The blue player, who has previously only taken 1, is now reduced down to 6. Seeing as all resources are expended, save for 1 green mana, and all the cards in the green player's hand cost more than 1 to cast, and all of their creatures are tapped out, the green player then ends their turn and passes it to the blue player. The blue player goes through upkeep, untaps all of their resources that are available, and then draws. Now right now, there are 8 cards in hand. We have to make sure we play enough that by the end of our turn, we do not have more than 7. So we're going to play our 1 land for the turn. That gets us right back down to 7. But we don't want to just stay where we are because we're in a pretty dangerous situation. So, what we are going to do is we are going to spend 1, 2, 3, 4 of any color and 2 blue to summon an Angler Drake. Now, Angler Drakes have a keyword of flying, and what flying means is that only other creatures with flying or creatures with reach may block it. Now, the Angler Drake also has what's known as an enter the battlefield effect. And what it says is when the Angler Drake enters the battlefield, you may return a target creature to its owner's hand. Now, that Cowl Prowler is a really big problem that the green player has, either through sorceries that inflict damage directly or with it just swinging. So we're going to try to slow our opponent down to buy us a little more time by returning the Cowl Prowler back to their hand. Now, the Angler Drake has just come in, so it has summoning sickness, so unfortunately it can't attack. The Stealer of Secrets is a 4/2 that can't be blocked, and it's swinging again. Now, it's going to inflict its damage directly, and I'm going to get to draw 1 more card. We now have 7 cards in hand, and we will end our turn. We don't want to waste our blocker. And the green player will then begin their turn. First with checking for upkeep triggers, then by untapping all of their resources, followed by drawing their card for the turn. And wouldn't you know it, that Cowl Prowler would have been helpful. But there are always other ways to deal with this. Now, the blue player is currently at 6. There's not a big gap between both players. So we're going to spend 1 colorless and 1 green to boost our Root Walla once more. The Root Walla turns into a 4/4 until the end of turn. It can only be activated once per turn. We're going to spend 1 colorless and 1 green to play Rabid Bite, the same one we used previously. Target creature you control deals damage equal to its power to target creature you don't control. Now the Root Walla's power is currently at 4. It's going to inflict 4 points to the Angler Drake, which is all that the Angler Drake can withstand. The Angler Drake can only withstand 4 points, as it has a power and toughness both of 4. Angler Drake is destroyed. Rabid Bite, as it resolves, finds itself in the discard pile. The Stealer of Secrets is tapped. Blue player only has 6 life. The Root Wallet is 4. The Giant Spider is 2. And the Druid of the Cowl is 1. For a total of 7 damage. The blue player has currently lost this game, and as such has priority or choice in the next matchup. That is how Magic is played. That is just a simple primer using a simple intro deck. Any questions you may have, feel free to respond or message, and we'll be doing more in-depth gameplay in the future. As always, I'm John McNabb, and I look forward to hearing from you.